Hello everyone, and welcome again to another segment that we like to refer to as our video response series, which is where potential clients write to us via email, or they ask us, over the phone, a question involving their loved one or involving the intervention process. And what we do is we take a common theme or a question that we keep getting over and over, and we try our best to kind of answer that in order to help families out that are considering or contemplating doing an intervention. My name is David Lee, and I am the founder of Intervention Services. We are a nationwide drug and alcohol intervention provider, and we've performed thousands of interventions. So here's the letter that I've chosen that I'm going to go ahead and speak about today. It says, "Dear Intervention Services, I'm considering doing an intervention on my husband John for his drinking, but I'm worried about what will happen when he says no. I know in my heart that he wants help, but I also know that there is no way that he will ever agree to go away to treatment. He might agree to see a counselor, but never a rehab. Although your program sounds good, I don't want to make things worse. What happens when he says no?" And I think in a lot of cases, we deal with a lot of families that call in and they make inquiries about interventions, and usually there's either a precipitating event, my loved one, ruined Thanksgiving, or there's been a long series of drug or alcohol abuse, and they're just kind of sick and tired, and they reach out for help. And a lot of times the biggest block for somebody or a family, in doing an intervention is the fear that in doing so, it'll make the situation worse. How will they react to the intervention? What happens when they say no? And the reality is generally speaking, we don't deal with clients that are compliant. If an intervention is necessary, there has been usually a degree of attempts of help by the family. They have talked to him or her about treatment. They've talked to him or her about quitting drugs or alcohol. And that particular person has said no, they're adamant about it, etc. And that's when we come in. We take a client that is absolutely adamant about now going into treatment, and what we do is we create a scenario that increases their willingness to go to treatment. And with professional interventions, over 95%, anywhere from 90 to 95% of interventions result in a client's agreeing to go to treatment. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about the percentage that says no, because that's really the biggest fear for many families, and probably every family that calls us. They believe that their family member is different, that they're a harder case, or they're more defiant or unwilling, or etc. So their concern isn't so much about what happens when they go to treatment, it's what happens when they say no. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different stages of tough love, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what happens on our style of intervention. Essentially, we gather with the family for a minimum of at least one day, could be 2 days, and it's several hours, and we're educating, we're going over addiction and recovery, and we're coming up with treatment plans and things like that. And we're educating the family so that everybody's on the same page. And 90% of what we talk about probably isn't going to happen, but we need to be prepared. We need to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And we get everybody on board. And part of that process is getting the family to understand or look at the situation differently. And what the family does in our particular case is that they come up with, they start to understand how their loved one's addiction is creating negative consequences in their own lives. And what we do is we write a letter. First we write a loving, caring, lift them up kind of letter. But then if several hours or sometimes days goes by and the substance abuser doesn't respond to that help, the family then collectively decides to read what we call a tough love letter. So fast forward, it's the intervention day. John has walked in. A lot of people are concerned what happens if he runs away. Well, we've got contingencies for that. So we get John to sit down. He's surrounded by his family members and friends. The interventionist is the facilitator, and what we do is we introduce ourselves and we get John to agree to hear a few letters that we're going to read. And the family begins to read these letters, and these are very loving letters. These are letters like, "Dear John, you're my brother and I love you very much. I'll never forget when we were 10 and we went to Disneyland together, and you're my big brother and you've always looked out for me. But lately I've been worried about you. And we don't try and attack the substance abuser. We don't try and list off all the things they've done wrong. That's not, in our opinion, an effective way of doing an intervention. So we try and lift them up, and then we talk to them about treatment. The interventionist begins to handle the objections of the substance abuser, because usually they say no. Sometimes they crumble and they say, oh, I'll go, but more often than not, they immediately say no. So our job is to handle their objections. And several hours can go by, and sooner or later they say yes. But let's take the case where they don't. They're adamant about it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. 12 hours goes by, and they're not going anywhere. Now, the family at some point has all slowly gotten on board to this idea, and they understand tough love, the concept, a little bit differently than they did several days ago. And they agree that it is time now to give John permission to be a substance abuser, but we need to inform John that we're going to make some changes in our lives. And what we do is we read a single letter, and it's generally what's called a tough love letter. And it goes something along the lines of this. Dear John, you're our brother and our friend and our family member, and we love you very much. And we all hoped that you would accept this gift of treatment and recovery. But we accept your decision to say no, and we love you anyway. However, there have been some negative consequences of your drinking that have been affecting us, so we have to make changes in our lives so that your drinking no longer affects us. And what are those changes? It's different in every family. We don't tell the family what those changes are going to be. We will guide and help. But classic examples would be, if I see you get in the car drunk, I'm either going to, try and stop you, or I may, contact the authorities because I can't have, somebody else's injuries on my conscience. Or I can't have you seeing the kids if you've been intoxicated. Or if John's living in the home and it bothers us to have John coming home drunk and causing problems, a spouse or a family member or a parent may decide, John, I can't have you living here because the negative consequences of your drinking are too much on my life. So we don't throw somebody out because they said no. It's more along the lines of, okay, fine, you can be an alcoholic. We get that. We've offered you help. But we have to make changes to protect ourselves. So that's the event of tough love. And this is the thing that many people are scared of. So my job today is to help and educate you guys to understand exactly what's going to happen to John when John is read this tough love letter. Basically, the best way that we can describe it is many people are familiar with, there was a woman named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and she wrote a book called On Death and Dying. And she talked about what is called the 5 stages of grief, which is that somebody with the loss of a loved one or even a loss of a job, etc., will go through a series of stages. And she defined those stages as the 5 stages of grief. We believe, at least in terms of tough love, which is a traumatic life event, that it's very similar to that for a substance abuser, except what we've done is we refer to it as a 7 stages of tough love. And they're very similar to the 5 stages of grief. So I want to thank Ms. Kubler-Ross for doing that, for going up and doing all the research. But it fits rather nicely. And hopefully by the time I'm done, you'll be a little bit more educated and you'll see things differently. So we're going to go through these 7 stages. The first stage is the initial reaction. And this is, we're going to read this letter to John. And we're going to list all the things that we do. And it's important that John is informed, and it cannot be punitive. In other words, this can't be a punishing letter. How dare you not go to treatment? It has to be a loving letter, which is, I truly understand that you are not ready right now, and that is okay. and the thing is no matter how loving we make it, though, John, who is an active substance abuser, who is probably emotionally immature, doesn't deal with uncomfortable life situations very well, may shift the blame, may initially react. He's not going to deal with it in a mature fashion, probably. And depending on how John deals with uncomfortable life situations is going to determine how John is going to react, this initial reaction. And this is during the intervention process. An interventionist is there, the family's there, we're reading one letter. John may explode. How dare you? He may cuss the family out. He may threaten them. He may throw ashtrays, or he may just walk out. If he's younger, in many cases with younger kids, we see, well, fine, my family was the problem anyway, and they storm out, and I'm going to take my dog, or whatever the heck it is. So we can predict to some degree how they're going to react depending upon their past history. If they're a violent person, that's probably how they're going to react. If they're prone to outbursts, that's how they'll react. If they avoid and shut down, that's how they'll react. So that's a temporary initial reaction to what is a negative event. Now, the trick of a tough love letter, the tough love action, is by removing ourselves temporarily in a loving way, we allow the negative consequences of John's alcoholism or his addiction to come and hit him. And that is uncomfortable. And for a guy that is not very well equipped with dealing emotionally with uncomfortable life situations, it has a predictable effect on John. The first stage is his initial reaction. The second stage is denial. So now, in our particular case, let's say John has now left the house. We've helped him to pack. We may have tried a couple things to talk to him a little bit, which is, I understand that you're not ready right now, John, and that's okay, but when you're ready, you give us a call. I understand that you're, not okay with it. It's okay. And so John leaves, right? And he leaves in a huff. And John is now, the second stage is denial. My family's not going to throw me out. My family's not going to not accept my calls. My family's not going to, quit paying, or they're not going to quit paying for my rent, my car payment. They're not going to fire me. And because the family has made threats so many times in the past and not followed through with it, John is in a state of denial. Now, how long is John going to stay in a state of denial? John will stay in just long enough for him to start to feel the negative consequences. And those may begin pretty quickly. If John has left the home and now he's trying to find his own place, or John doesn't have any income source or whatever have you, he may gravitate out of denial within 15 minutes, or it may take a day. It depends. And what I prepare families for is we need to look for the next stage. And the next stage is a very uncomfortable stage for family members, but it is a necessary stage. And the next stage is the stage of anger. So we've gone from the initial reaction to denial to anger. And the anger is, they have thrown me out. How dare they do that to me? Who the heck are they? Now, in one of our other video response series, we talk about the 4 emotions used by a substance abuser to hijack a family and cause them to enable. And I strongly suggest that you watch that, because we're going to talk about that right now. During each of these stages, generally speaking, a substance abuser will focus primarily on one emotion to cause a family to backpedal. When a substance abuser is in the stage of anger, how dare you do that to me? Generally speaking, what they'll do is they will try and hijack a family's fear. You did the wrong thing. If you had only came to me instead of having that interventionist come out, I would have listened, but now you'll never see me again. We sometimes get that, which is planting seeds of fear. Or, you'll never see the kids again. How dare you do that to me? And unfortunately, whoever is the primary enabler in the family is going to get the brunt of the phone calls. So what we do during this stage is we have rules. And generally the rules are one person can receive phone calls from John. And it's usually not the primary enabler. Why? Because we don't want them to absorb all this. So he may want to call, John might want to call mom and punish her for doing this intervention. You're the worst mom in the world. How dare you do that to me, etc. So we channel everything into one person. So the first stage is his initial reaction. He now quickly gets into denial. How dare they? They haven't kicked me out. And then the third stage is anger, and he tries to plant their fear seeds to cause them to kind of change. So the next stage is what I call the punishment stage. Now, he's angry. He's initially, how dare they do that to me? Now it's, I'll make them pay. Now, anybody that's been a kid, and I've been a kid, and your parents have done something wrong or whatever, they've punished you, what do? We sit up in our room and one day they'll be sorry. I'll run away and join the circus and they'll be sorry. Well, that's kind of very similar to the machinations of a substance abuser. I'm a recovering addict myself, and this is what I did with my family. So what John is going to do is John is going to punish the family. He's already hit him with the fear, you'll never see me again. Now he's in the punishing stage, and he's going to use a combination of fear and guilt. Now guilt is a huge one. Guilt is, if you had been a better spouse, I wouldn't have the problems. Or as a result of this intervention, I am now homeless and I have lost my job, and it is your fault. That all of the negative consequences that have now fallen on me, day one of the intervention, day two of the intervention, are your fault. And John will call every 15 minutes to explain in detail how every single problem that he is now experiencing, from running out of gas to getting arrested to losing his job to getting a DUI, how it's the family's fault. Okay? So, if we can hold on to a family during this process, and we have some rules on how they contact us and etc., and generally speaking, the interventionist is staying out at least one more day to keep the family grouped up through this pretty difficult process. So it's not easy. It's not easy at all to be a family member and to try and help somebody and to have them call you 15 minutes later and cuss you out and try and punish you. If a family can remain firm and hold on through the denial stage, through the anger stage, and through the punishing stage, the next stage is the bargaining stage. Now, John has begun to experience some negative consequences, and they are enough for him to not want to stay there. And what he is going to do is he is now going to realize that he's kind of backed into a corner, and he's going to try and lessen this treatment option. In other words, in many cases, we offer the client a 28-day stay at a residential treatment program. It could be as long as a 60 or a 90-day stay. It's a pretty big chunk, you know, and John doesn't want to do that. So John's going to call, and what is going to happen is he's going to begin to offer hope. The emotion that he's going to use in this stage is hope, which is, why do I have to go away to this long-term program? Why can't I stay here and see a therapist? Or why can't I go to AA meetings? Or why don't I do outpatient first? Or we need family counseling. I'll do family counseling, but I won't go away. I'll never go away. Never go away. So what happens in the bargaining stage is we see kind of a balancing act between hitting mom and dad's fear and guilt buttons and then offering them hope. So the fear is, I'll never go. You'll never see me again. I'll overdose tomorrow. I'm on the streets. Drug dealers are trying to kill me, or I got in a bar fight yesterday. You shouldn't have done this intervention. If you'd only talked to me, I would have listened. Guilt, fear. However, if you guys want, I'll go see a therapist tomorrow if you just back off. So that's the stage of bargaining. Many families crumble during these previous stages, and they don't follow through with the whole intervention. They don't understand the science of it. They think that these are random things. They feel at any moment that they're about to lose their son or their daughter, and they crumble at various points. And they think that that offering of hope is, hey, he's turning it around. And in John's case, this is only a manipulation, whether he's consciously aware of it or not, a manipulation to cause the family to back off. And if the family does back off at this point, I will almost guarantee that John will probably be using or drinking again within a few weeks once the dust clears. So the next stage is if we can get through the bargaining stage and remain firm, which is, I understand that you're not ready right now, and it's great if you want to go see a counselor. You can on your own. However, we're remaining firm. When you're ready to accept a commitment to recovery by a stay at an inpatient treatment program, give us a call. And if we stay in that stage long enough, he'll continue to try and bargain, and we can remain firm. And then what will happen is then John will travel into the state of depression, where the primary emotion that he will use against his family is sympathy, which is, woe is me. Fine, I can understand why. I guess you'll never see me again. A different variation of the angry, how dare you'll never see me again. Sometimes at this point we see suicidal threats, which we always have to take seriously. We have to get the proper authorities involved. During the stage of sympathy, John, in many cases, will play the role of a victim. And some people, this is their strength. You know, I understand why you did this, and I'll understand why you don't want me at your house. I'll figure out some way to make it on my own. I just haven't eaten in a few days. I'll be okay. You know, those kind of things. And I did that with my family. I've hit my family with all of these stages, and 99% of the time my family backed off at one of these stages. It wasn't until the very end, when my family did a full-blown professional intervention on me, that they were able to, with the guidance of a professional, walk through all of these stages and come out clean the other side. So John's family remains firm and goes through the initial reaction, the denial, the anger, the punishing stage, which is brutal, the bargaining stage, and the depression, the stage of depression. It is only a matter of time before John calls and accepts help. And the final stage is accepting help. And he says, okay, fine, I'll do it. Now, by rearranging the universe around John, by removing some of the enabling factors, and temporarily, allowing John to feel the negative consequences, and remaining firm. We don't proactively punish a substance abuser who refuses help. We simply remove ourselves in a loving way out of the picture, and all these negative consequences will occur. How fast they occur is up to you, depending on how much enabling already is present, etc. So that's pretty much it. Again, my name is David Lee, and I'm the founder of Intervention Services. And this was a brief presentation on the 7 stages of tough love. And hopefully, families that are considering an intervention maybe see things a little bit differently. An intervention is not a random crapshoot. Recovery and sobriety is not a random crapshoot. There is a science involved to it. And substance abusers, as chaotic and random as their behavior may seem to you, is actually very predictable. And our job is to help you to predict and understand the actions that your loved one takes, and to empower you so that you can be the element of change with your loved one. So that's pretty much all that I got. And if you have any questions, you can contact us directly. Our website is www.interventionservicesinc.com. And you can ask for me directly, David Lee. I'm always available for families that have questions or concerns. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.